How would you feel about a high school class called therapy where kids are taught how to set boundaries and deal with their emotions in a healthy manner? My friend is training to be a social worker, and I'd currently working in a school. They do sessions on friendship/romantic relationships, boundaries and consent, and other modules which try to teach social and emotional healthy behaviors. It's not quite the same as what you're saying, but it does have elements of this. I think the key is you start young and then continue to build on it in different ways. The point I would make though is that this is not for teachers to teach, it's for social workers or therapists. I agree. Ex-social worker here. The sessions would be fine, but therapy designed by civil servants, vetted by school district superintendents, then approved by parents' groups, delivered by educators? No. That idea scares me. Can you imagine the fighting over the curriculum? Whose values would be front and center? Teachers are already expected to be everything to students, the list on them keeps growing. Let them do well in what they are trained to do. I have an example from today. I'm taking a conflict resolution/mediation class for work. We were talking about ways people deal with conflict. One way is by trying to indirectly control the conflict by bringing others into their side. I pointed out that the way white girls grow up dealing with their emotions sometimes means that we develop a habit of crying when we're upset, and when that happens in a professional setting, it creates a sense that this woman has been wronged. Let's stop whoever hurt her. It makes it really hard for people who didn't grow up expressing emotions the same way to be taken seriously, show the effect of an incident on themselves, and bring up their side. I have read a lot of women of color, particularly black women, write about how this imbalance affects them. The reaction in the room was really interesting. Of the 13 of us taking the course, 11 of us were white women, 2 were WOC. The other white women kind of seemed disbelieving that this was a thing. Then one of the WOC said she noticed and was affected by it, and shared a time it was a really painful thing for her. Then the others in the room seemed to be okay saying, yes, okay, we see tears can cause an imbalance for all of us. Which in and of itself minimizes the greater effect on people who come from cultures where that is the opposite of how you deal with conflict. We kept talking about it. I kind of felt like it was a part-way their conversation, but at least the woman who shared her story seemed to appreciate that it was brought up and that we were able to discuss white fragility. Edit. I went and found a clip from a reality show that illustrates this well. It's from a show about drag queens, and it's a group of them talking about a fight that happened earlier. Hopefully I clicked this right. The relevant bit starts at 4 o'clock. It perfectly walks through tears and race from 4 o'clock to about 5:30 or 5:40. Oh my god! I never even realized. I'm Chinese and grew up in fairly Confucian values. My parents are actually very progressive as far as most Asian parents go, but even then being open with my emotions is very hard for me in that environment. On top of that, I'm a man, so that's just an entire other layer. But I've noticed this amongst women in Asia as well, including recounted experiences by my cousins and my sister. I'm so glad I gave you an aha. I also don't want to give the impression that tears, or whatever expression of emotion a person needs, are unhealthy. But there's a time and place, and there are times when it's just unfair and manipulative, even when that isn't what the conscious intent of the crier is. Or even when it's actively infuriating for the crier. I would love to learn how not to cry when I'm very agitated about something. As I get older, I'm getting better about speaking clearly in spite of that, but it isn't exactly the in-command image I'm trying to present when there are still tears running down my face. Did you have the occasion to discuss behaviors from European countries, to give a practical example I'm knowledgeable about? Because it's another set of cultures. Despite being technically white people land, and people will express themselves differently despite what their skin color may indicate. For example, a blunt approach to an issue, which may feel rude from a different POV, or being witty while defending yourself, again, it may feel rude from a different POV, will very much be a thing, rather than tears to gather sympathy. Now I'm not asking that to deny or diminish the issues WOC deal with because their cultural background is different from the start. But I'd probably feel just as out of place in a situation of conflict, because I may be a white woman but I keep my emotions to myself, even under pressure. Instead of crying, outwitting the person I'm in conflict with would probably be the strategy, because wit, especially through verbal jesting, is more respected than emotional outbursts, be they manipulative or sincere, in my country. In fact, some people may even consider the outburst as a loss for the emotional person, because it's an indicator they couldn't endure the conflict. If you're in trouble, endure, fight for your voice to be heard and be clever is how it is. Another person pointed out that situation is even reversed in Australia, where white women are less likely to use tears to get what they want. While I'm a man, I grew up in a Hispanic household in an American city that was mostly populated by Eastern European immigrants. My best friend is a girl fresh from Russia. So most of my experiences with dealing with real-life emotions were learned by being around her family. They are all very pointed speakers and I have very much picked up on that too. I've moved from the city and live in a western white city now. People often find being so direct as rude. Which is really a huge culture shock for me, because I've always seen being direct, male or female, the fastest way to fix an issue. But now if I bring up an issue, my friend might cry over it. Now I feel like my issue is invalidated because I have to take care of her. Hey, Julie, you're 20 minutes late again and you didn't even text. You can't keep doing that. They gave away our table we had reservations for and it's going to be another hour for a seat. I couldn't find my shoes and my zipper got stuck. I'm just a horrible friend because I can't do anything right and I'm terrible. Don't cry. You're not a horrible friend, you just were a bit late, it happens sometimes. I'm sorry, please don't cry. Then I have to think, why am I the one who is apologizing for her being late? Why is she even crying?